Well, for much more on Rory McIlroy's historic victory, let's bring Bob Weeks into the show. And Bob, this was your 29th Masters covering, and I'm sure you've seen some electric Sundays in your time. But when you think about everything that you've covered in the past to what you saw on Sunday, how would you compare? How amazing was that Sunday at Augusta National?
It's right up there. It has to be one of the top two or three, if not the top one that I've been to and attended. And just the emotional roller coasters, the ups, the downs. For the first time in probably 5 or 6 years, we had, the big cheers in the back nine, big roars in the back nine that you can hear basically anywhere on the property. Um, and then, there was there was Rory. I mean, it was bizarre to watch him stumble out of the gate with that double bogey on the first hole. And I think everybody suspected this would be Rory versus Bryson, and it certainly wasn't that. And then later on, Rory versus Justin Rose, and it really didn't turn out to be that. To me, this was Rory versus Rory, and it was, how does Rory get beyond himself over this hump, dealing with all the ups and downs, some tremendous shot making, some horrid shot making. And then I think the thing that will last for me is just watching him drop to his knees and fall onto the ground and crying. And I mean, he was in tears 5 or 6, 7 different times, I think, from the time he sunk that putt till the time he left the property with all the interviews and things that he did. So, in a big picture sense, this to me was easily one of the most emotional and probably one of the most popular wins that we have seen too.
I'm glad you mentioned the emotion, Bob, because forever Rory's been such an honest interview. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. But this was different, wasn't it? It was, in his words, it wasn't quite a triumphant win. It was more relief, dropping to his knees. And it was almost like Bobby was hyperventilating with emotion. How cool is it to see an athlete just break down like that and really show the world how he's feeling in one of the greatest moments of his life?
We've seen Rory be very open in most of his career, not quite in this way, but when you sit and interview him, whether he's in a press room or whether we get a one-on-one with him, he's not afraid to sort of share his emotions for better or for worse. He's not afraid to um, talk about Greg Norman in a harsh way. He's not afraid to praise the RBC Canadian Open in a certain way. He's not afraid to admit to his foibles in life and talk about what he goes through and what he wants to do and how he's trying to change his own personality, whether it's Rory the golfer or Rory the human being. So, that emotion is another example of that, probably an extreme example of that. But he's not afraid to sort of let it all hang out. And, you saw him on the knees, you saw him hugging his wife and his daughter. There was his agent, you saw him hugging him and a lot of different people. And I think there's it's joy, but it's relief. He admitted to being nervous too, which was something that I was sort of a little bit surprised at right from the word go, and because he certainly never looked that way. He had talked about earlier in the week how he wanted to be very even keeled with his emotions, to go out and kind of find a happiness on the golf course. That's what he said. Dr. Bob Rotella told him to do. He's a sports psychologist, a very famous sports psychologist in golf. And he just said, go out and think about how you feel good on the golf course and try to remind yourself to stay in that feeling. And I think that was tough to do when you've come so close before and now you have another opportunity. And I'm sure it's like, the cartoons when they had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on this one, and this one saying, be happy, be enjoying it. And said the other one saying, don't mess this up again. And that back and forth between Rory's little mental coaches on either side, I think it's tough to grasp. I think just how much of a mountain this was for him to climb emotionally.
Now, coming up a little later in the show, we're going to see the essay that you wrote and our production team put together. But given the roller coaster that Sunday was with Rory McIlroy, Bob, how challenging was that to put that essay together, given all the ebbs and flows of the round?
There's when we come to the Masters, we do the long preview show. So on Sundays it's 4 hours, and then we get a little break where we watch the golf. But then as it comes to the conclusion, everything starts to scramble, and you've got to basically try to, I guess, hedge your bets. So I wrote most of that. I'd say about 70% of it, sort of with maybe two holes to go or three holes to go, and then I had to write like two or three different endings, but none of those three endings was what happened. So you don't expect Rory to sort of miss the first opportunity or to hit it in the bunker from 125 yards or whatever that was. So yeah, we scramble a little bit on that, and then we've got, of course, I had to run up because where our set is not where the players finish up, so I had to run up and get an interview with Corey Connors that we did, and then we put together our Sports Center hits and our wrap up show hits, and it's a busy stretch down there, but. I can tell you the emotions amongst everybody, it was because of not just Rory winning, but the fact that Rory won and how the afternoon played out with all sorts of different players involved. I think everybody was just on a real high to see, and I think everyone was, even on our team, even journalists who were supposed to be, not particular to any one player, but I think everybody was pretty high about Rory finally getting this done.
Yeah, I was boarding a plane as Rory McIlroy tapped in for the win, and there was an audible cheer on the airplane when that went down.